Hi, this is Eric Miskell on the show floor at Apex 2026 at the Co-Young booth, celebrating St. Patrick's Day here today, since neither Audrey or I wore green, obviously. So
I had green on last night.
Ah, you did?
Yes.
Yes, you did. You were pre-celebrating, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey McGuckin of the McGuckin Group. Once again, we did this last year.
Yes, we did.
We get to do it again. It's becoming an annual ritual for us. You spoke once again at the EMS Leadership Council yesterday.
Yes.
Tell me what the message was.
Yeah.
And how that went.
The leadership conference was yesterday. We had more than 50 people in the room. And the big topic was really around this juxtaposition between AI and human-centered leadership. The chase for technology and yet the need for humans to show up with judgment.
Yeah. Now, this is based, if I remember correctly, on research that you've been doing with management teams in the EMS sector over the past year or so.
Indeed. And, our team has really processed insights and perspectives from 133 executives across 166 executives across 13 organizations. And really what we were trying to discover is what are some of the challenges specifically in EMS, and specifically as it relates to AI and people in leadership.
Okay. And what were the insights? What can you share?
The first big insight is EMS leaders do not want to be at the forefront of this. Their margins are too skinny. They do not want to experiment too much. They don't want to take too many risks. And that's not a surprise for us with our EMS community, right? They're very customer obsessed and they're very focused on getting it right in the context of having razor thin margins. So what we heard from them was, we're not at the forefront of that, and that's a deliberate strategy. We don't want to be at the forefront of it. We want the OEMs to be making the mistakes, and we want to learn from that. And we also want our suppliers to be bringing the game to us with the automation and the we want them to be bringing the game to us. We're not in the business of AI. Was one of the big insights.
Do you find that there's common opinion, consensus as to what, when they say AI, what they're referring to?
If I think about my own model of maturity in AI, where it starts with light experimentation and all the way to complete integration into your business, I do think that they have a common view on it. I think they know it's a technology. They know it can be applied. They don't have the language, I'm going to call it, around agentas, agents, engines. They're not far up the maturity curve, right? Some of the examples where we're using it for contracts, we're using it in AP. I mean, one of our clients that we talked to said, we have an AI agent in procurement, but it requires a lot of judgment. So there's some understanding, but I don't think the world has a common view on AI. Yeah.
And that's an excellent point, right? Because that's what I hear. AI gets used very liberally within marketing, especially in our industry. You look around, right? But is there any distinction, maybe, the LLM that's behind all of these things? If it's a general one or one that's specific to them, if there is a desire to keep, we want to keep ours, right? We want to reflect our universe of thought rather than everything out there.
They do. They want to keep it within the four walls. There's a concern around risk. There's a concern around privacy. There's a concern around where does the data go. And there's just a general concern about where does this whole thing go. And you and I talked about this last night. Sophia on our team will say, do not say please and thank you to your AI agent. Stop saying it. You're using energy and it's not a human. Then there's a school of thought that says, well, I'm worried what this AI platform could turn into. And what if it comes back to me and said, you were rude to me? So there's the whole spectrum.
Ooh, yeah. That's
we talked about some of that last night.
But that's it. So going back to your point about leadership with this too, right? So they don't want to lead; they want the OEMs to, but they're still leaders within their own organizations. So they still need to lead, right, their people in the adoption and the use of this.
Yes. And the space that we talk to EMS leaders on is the intersection between technology and human centeredness.
Okay.
And you can't chat GPT your way into motivating and inspiring your employees. That comes from authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had a really great conversation with one of our EMS clients in Guadalajara. And what he talked about was, and we have a common language, he said, there are moments that matter where AI will never take over.
Mm.
For example, when I'm the VP of this factory and I'm standing up in a town hall and I'm sharing stories and I'm sharing perspective and I'm giving eye-to-eye contact, that can never be replaced by AI. And he said, what I'm telling my direct team, my functional managers and my business guys, you better start to get really, really focused and really high capacity on leading with human centeredness and establish the moments that matter. I'm not asking you to be like that every day because we need to get product out the door. We need to get POs signed. We need to get parts. We need to do all of those things. But where are the moments that matter, where judgment and human centeredness will never be replaced?
Yeah.
And it's in a one-on-one.
Right.
And it's when we're talking and smiling and connecting, and it's about the heart.
Yep.
And so that's where we're playing.
Yeah. No, and that's a great message and a great, especially in an industry like ours, right, which is full of engineers, and we know how they can be, right? And then it's all the technology and all the tools and all the competition and everything.
Yes.
That probably gets forgotten a lot.
Exactly. And we've been studying some of the World Economic Forum data on what are the capabilities that will be required in 2030. And there's 11 of them. And it's things like AI competency, technology literacy. But 7 out of the 11 are things like empathy, creativeness, connectedness, transparency. And so we know that the capabilities that we got taught in EMS, drives for results, get things done, move mountains, walk on broken glass, all of those things may still be relevant, and you need this human layer on top of it.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to follow up with you on one issue, and I saw this in, I think it was the description for your talk yesterday, or maybe it was but it was connecting strategy, talent, and execution to win. So I get the first two, right? It's the next one, to win, right? That, hold on, did I read that right? Yeah, the strategy, talent, and execute. The strategy and the talent, you can develop the strategy, get the talent. The execution, right? That's kind of the secret sauce, getting them to do that.
Yes.
So explain
A little
what
bit
you
about
mean
that.
by this. And
Yeah, I wish I had a flip chart or a whiteboard,
yeah,
but I'll talk you through it.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a performance access and we say typically people are running at 70% performance.
Okay.
Our EMS friends will hate me for that, but typically it's 70% performance. In organizations, there's 2 sets of employees. There's one set that's probably at the 30% level of performance, and we say that they are on the have-to curve. I just have to get out of bed, I have to put my feet on the floor, and I have to go into this place, sign in, clock out, and get out of there as fast as I can. They're giving you 30% of their differentiated effort. And then there's a set of employees that are closer to that 70% mark, and they're on the want-to curve. So I want to get out of bed. I can't wait to go into the factory in Guadalajara. I can't wait to be in Boise, whatever it may be. They're really on that want-to curve. And then we get the question, well, how do you shift people from the have-to the want-to? There's only 4 ways to do it. One is the quality of their leader. The second is the quality of the team that they're working with. The third is the culture. And the fourth is the job they're doing. So if you look at those 4 things and you have a solid strategy with good people, that's where the execution to win comes into play.
Yeah.
Does that help.
That makes complete
Yes.
sense. Yeah. And those four aren't distinct. They're all very interrelated.
Interrelated,
so, you know,
right?
So you can't take one out, as engineers are prone to do, and study it in the optimal, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand it, you know, all in synergy with each other.
You know, there's an interesting, we have an EMS practice. We also have a healthcare practice. And I was recently at a healthcare conference listening to an economist. So I'm going to diverge a little bit from EMS. He talked for 45 minutes on the future of healthcare with lots of data and lots of information. The last thing he talked about is, he said, talent is the prerequisite to strategy. The social contract has changed, and burnout and depression are real in the workforce. And I think that applies to EMS as well. Talent is the prerequisite to strategy. The social contract has changed. There are less people that are old and grey-haired and in our generation, and there's more newer generation people. And here's the interesting thing. The generations in the workplace that are newer, this is across industries, 57% of them are reporting burnout and stress and depression. And I know that everybody that's listening to this conversation will resonate with, I have a family member who's suffering from stress, burnout, or depression. And if they don't, there'll be somebody that's 1 degree of separation away. And so the reason I talk about this is that's the role of leaders. The role of leaders is to say, how can I inspire this new generation? Because the social contract has changed.
That's fascinating.
Right?
How does this resonate with, you were in a room full of EMS yesterday?
You know,
is it mixed?
No, it's not mixed.
I mean, the point you just made about you know, about having somebody that's impacted by that, obviously that'll probably resonate with everybody. But you probably have some old styles in the room too, I'd imagine.
A lot of old styles. Yeah. I mean, the demographic in the room was closer to our age range, right? Older leaders, and I would be confident to say a large percentage of the people in that room it resonated with. And the folks at the Global Electronics Association purposely bring us in to shake things up. We're not giving them a deck, a presentation. We're connecting with them emotionally. And I can tell you that I had at least 3 conversations where men came up, shared a perspective, and were emotional and crying. Because that's the world we live in.
It is.
It's, and we all have a story that we can say.
Yeah, for the benefit too, so people understand. You talked about the EMS, you talked about the healthcare, but you were in electronics manufacturing. What you're talking about is people. People are in all these sectors, right? It's in all of these sectors. So you're not just limited, and I'm saying this for the people watching, for whom this may resonate. You adapt this to other parts of our industry just as easily.
Yes. You know, some of our clients include companies like eBay, L'Oreal, who, you know, in the beauty industry. This transcends industries. But the reason I double down on it for EMS is we were raised in a way that this wasn't a capability that was developed. We were raised to say you're stoic, home stays at home, work is work, and don't bring any of that to the table. And so it's context matters.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're a great agent of change in the industry on this one, because it's very real. And, you know, we've talked off camera, and, you know, I think the work you're doing is fantastic, and it's, you know, benefits a lot of people in our industry. So.
Thank you, Eric.
No, I mean it.
I know you do.
I know.
And I love our conversations.
Yeah, good. Well, let's do it again. What, maybe next year again after the next one? Is that how it works?
Sounds good.
Audrey, pleasure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.